Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over the intermediate scratch of collection. Now, if you guys don't know what motion, events, controls, sensing, or operators is, I highly recommend you go back to the first video about the beginner processes, where I explained Scratch, costumes, and the scripts for you. I also explained sprites and other things that you may know or may not know. Now in intermediary, I'm going to assume you know the basics of motion, looks, events, controls, sensing, and operators. You will not be using more blocks, pen, or sound until advanced or expert. Alright, in collection game, we want the user-controlled sprite to collect objects and complete the objective of the game. Here's our manual, or rubric. My bad. And we're not going to be using this until the expert either, because in beginner, intermediate, and advanced, you guys might not know how to do all of these. Alright, that's cool. Now we want the character to collect the coin. Alright, there's different ways to go about this: mouse or arrow keys. Because I explained this in the last video, you guys can do whatever controls you want. In this, I'll be using WASD. If you guys don't know what WASD is, it's basically the arrow keys, but on a different part of the keyboard. So if I do this, forever, if key up arrow is pressed, I want this to change the Y position by 5. Alright, we need this for all 4 keys. So we need 4 of these left. And if you guys are wondering why is that glowing, that's because I clicked this. If I click the event, it will activate. And because there's a forever loop, it's gonna keep glowing until I stop the project. Alright, now I have to change this to X values. And left arrow is -5 and right arrow is 5. So now, oh, my bad. I said I would do WASD. W A S T. Alright. Or no, not T, D. D. W A. Oh, my bad, I made another mistake. The WASD. Now we have our character. Alright, we had some complications there. But now that we have our character moving, we also want to get the coin collision working. So, when this is pressed, forever, check if this is touching the character. So if touching the character, then we need a variable now for our score, and set the score to 0 in the beginning, change score by 1, show score as well. So change the score by 1. So here we are changing the score every time we touch this, and we need this to only activate the score once. Otherwise it's going to keep adding when this is touching. That's not good. So let's change the score by 1 and also change the position of the coin. So go to a random, or a random here. Let's do this. I'm going to do -240 here, and +240 here, -180 here, and +180 here. Alright, now that we have that working, the coin's going to move. Alright, that's pretty cool. This is what we accomplished in the last video. Now, we want to accomplish something different. Let's add walls. Now, if you guys are wondering, what do you mean by walls? I mean collision. So if I added a wall here, then it will collide with it or sense it and go in the opposite direction. There are 2 main ways to go about this. Main way number 1 is to add a wall sprite And main way number 2 is to sense it using color. Now the color, it's gonna be kind of weird because if you use that color ever again, then it's gonna act as if that's a wall and not whatever it is, or the background or something. And if it's a sprite, well, if you want to add a wall, you're gonna have to make way more than one sprite, or just multiple costumes. So usually the sprite is used. For beginners, they usually use color because they don't think about this. But we're going to be using the sprite. Now, let's add a giant line, and let's make the stroke big so it's noticeable. Right here, and right here. Let's add some few more lines. Let's also add a diagonal line. Alright, that should be good. Let's move this outwards more. Alright, now that we have our sprite, when this arrow is pressed, let's center this. And boom. Alright, cool, it's working. Now, for the character, if this collides with one of these walls, you can't let it pass it. So, when your flag is clicked, let's see if it collides with the wall. Or let's sense. So, when this is clicked, forever, if this is touching a wall, or touching, and then sprite 1, actually let's rename this to walls. Walls. Alright, now that we have our walls, if this is colliding with the wall, then we want it to obviously not pass through the wall and stop there. So how do we do that? Now, if you guys are doing color, well, that's going to work because you're going to be touching the wall and it's going to sense the color. But this works equally as well. But the main problem here is if this is touching the wall, what direction do you send the sprite? So if this character is touching the wall going downwards, how do you separate that from if this is touching the wall going sideways? Now I challenge you to obviously try to figure that problem out by yourself, but if you guys can't do it, I don't blame you, but we're going to be working on this together. Alright, so if it's touching the wall, we want it to move. So while it's touching the wall, if the W key is being pressed, so if this is touching the wall and I'm pressing W or going upwards, we want this to change by the negative of that value. Like so. So if W is pressed, we want to be changing by the negative. If you're wondering why there's so much space, it's because 5 steps upwards is going to be up here, which is touching the wall. And it doesn't want to touch the wall. So it brings it 5 pixels downwards, which is here. It also changes here, and I can't go up. Alright, that's cool. Now, what if I don't want that space? Then I can repeatedly change Y downwards until it's not touching a wall. Now the only problem is, if you make your movement value really big, then it'll just go through the wall, and it's going to stop sensing it as part of the wall. But I'll show you it anyways. So we're going to be putting a repeat here. Repeat until not block, not touching the wall. So we're going to be changing the Y value by -1 until it's not touching the wall. Now, as you guys can see, it does that. But the only problem is that you can just go through it because this value is so great. If I change it to -4, you can still go through it. It's just, pushy about it. literally. Alright, so you should probably just stick to the -5, unless you want it to be like quicksand or something, or a hidden room. Alright, now that we have that working, we need to add collision for the other walls. So let's just copy this for now. Copy the change x by, and if S is pressed, or actually let's just copy this entire thing and make these negatives. So now we should have all the collisions working. There we go. Now obviously there's going to be that small space, but you guys might notice one problem. The diagonal's working fine, so that's good. But if you press your S key, or D key, my bad, and you press up, well, yes, there's a wall here, so you can't go right, but you can't go up as well, even though you're pressing W. And if you guys are wondering why that happens, you always gotta look at the code. So while D is being pressed, you're changing X by -5. But because this code is running, how's it gonna check for a different code? Or if I wanna, or I'm thinking of something else. If D is being pressed and it's going into this wall, like so, then it thinks that it's in the wall. And if it's in the wall, it's going to change the x value by -5. In the same way, you're pressing up and D, or right. So while you're pressing up, it's also constantly going into the wall and back out because of this. And because it's in the wall while you're pressing W, changes your Y position back down. That's why this is not working. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to fix this, but it's not majorly changing the gameplay, so it's not too bad. We'll be going over some solutions in the later episodes, or advanced and expert, but right now you should not be too concerned about this. But one last thing, what would happen if the coin spawns inside the wall or in an unreachable place, such as here? How are we going to get the coin? Okay, how do we fix this? Once again, I challenge you to try to fix this problem. If you can't, that's okay. Just you can come back to this video once you have tried. Alright, so this is the coin generating area. It generates a position for the coin. Now we do not want this position to be here or along the walls. How do we fix this? So when this touches the character, like this, we don't want this to happen. Change the score by 1 and go to a random position. But if that position is touching the wall, we want to move to a different position, and we're gonna repeat this until it's not touching the wall. Remember, we want to repeat this because if it goes to another random spot, it can also be in a wall. So we want to repeatedly move it to a different place until it's not in a wall. Alright, I did not see any of these coins going into the wall, so that should be a success. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you learned some new coding mechanics, and until next time, don't forget to turn off your sticky keys.